This is Getting to Know the World's Greatest Artists by Mike Venizia. This book is part of a series. This one is about Vincent van Gogh. And this book is a supplement and necessary information for second and third grades Art to Remember project, where we will be creating not a starry, starry night, for which Van Gogh is so famous, but a snowy, snowy night. So let's get to know Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was one of the most tragic artists that ever lived. Nothing seemed to go right for him, and he wasn't very happy. He never even smiled in his self-portraits. And here is one of his self-portraits. He did paint many. And one of the good things about that is we actually know what the artist looked like before there was photography to capture photographs of an artist so we could know what they looked like otherwise. Van Gogh was born in Holland, which we also call the Netherlands, in 1853 and died in France in 1890. Unlike most artists, Van Gogh didn't decide to become a painter until he was a grown-up. He tried lots of other things first. He worked in an art gallery, selling paintings. He tried teaching. He worked in a bookstore, and he was a preacher like his dad. None of these things made him very happy. Then one day, he decided to be an artist. So the thing I like about Mike Venezia's books, he includes real images of the artist and some fun comic strips along the way. You can see this is Van Gogh making an effort to be an art dealer, and the person trying to buy a painting says, "You call that a painting? My 5-year-old could do better." And Vincent's answer is, "This isn't making me happy." So he tries teaching. And you can see there's some paper wads on his desk. He says, "This isn't making me very happy." He tries being a bookseller in a bookstore. This lady says, "No, I said that one. Can't you hear?" And he says, "This definitely isn't making me very happy." And then finally, he tries being a preacher like his dad. And he says, "I think I'll be an artist. That might make me happy." Van Gogh always tried his best at whatever he did, so he went to different art schools to learn everything he could about drawing and painting. His early drawings were of poor people he used to help when he was a preacher. There are certain things you can see in these drawings that show up later in his famous paintings, such as strong lines and shapes. Those should sound pretty familiar because we did a huge study of the art elements. You can see the feelings he had for people in everyday life. These are all black and white, so you can see different values of grays. These are mostly chalk, charcoal, and watercolor. Van Gogh's first paintings were also of poor people he had been helping. In this painting, the family was so poor they had only a few potatoes to eat for dinner. They looked tired and not very happy. In fact, this painting is called The Potato Eaters. It's very dark and not very colorful. I think we know from studying color as an art element, color and lots of it usually indicates happiness. The colors in Van Gogh's early paintings were dark and sad. He wanted everyone to know how hard the lives of these poorer people were. So here's another painting during that time. Also very dark, just a touch of blue, and not bright blue at that. Van Gogh kept using dark colors until he discovered some colorful Japanese artwork. He loved their bright colors and strong lines and the shapes that he saw. And there's another little comic. Van Gogh says, "Wow, I wonder what this bright stuff is." And the gentleman selling the paintings and prints says, It's called yellow, blue, red, and orange. Soon, Van Gogh's paintings started to look much more colorful. Look at the difference between the gloomy potato eaters from a couple pages ago and the painting above, which was done only a few years later. Quite a difference. And I'm going to flip back 2 pages to the potato eaters so you can really see the difference. Quite a difference his color choices made. We know a lot about how Van Gogh felt and why he did certain things because he was always writing letters to his younger brother, Theo. Theo always helped his brother. He encouraged him to paint and sent him money when he could. Because Van Gogh was always sending and receiving letters, he got to know his postman pretty well. He painted pictures of him and used the postman's wife as a model in many of his paintings as well. So we have another comic strip. It's Vincent's parents and his brother Theo. And Vincent's mother says, "Who's it from, dear?" And Theo says, "It's a letter from Vincent. He says he's sick, nobody likes him, his room doesn't have any heat, his back is killing him, and I should send him money as soon as possible. Sounds like he's doing much better." And while that's kind of a joke, Van Gogh did have a very difficult time getting his painting and art off the ground and noticed. And so that may have been a good day for him, even though that was a list of somewhat awful things. This is a painting of his postman. In 1886, Vincent moved to Paris, France, to join Theo. Paris was the center of the art world then, and since Theo was in the business of buying and selling paintings, and Vincent wanted to be an artist, it seemed like a pretty good place to be. Theo introduced Vincent to a lot of painters while they lived in Paris. Hardly anyone knew it then, but many of those painters would become world-famous artists someday. "Vincent, I'd like you to meet Toulouse-Lautrec, Émile Bernard, Camille Pissarro, Georges Seurat, Paul Signac, and Paul Gauguin." And Vincent says, "Gee, Theo, I was hoping to meet someone famous." All of those artists become quite famous. A couple of years later, Vincent van Gogh decided to leave Paris and move to a small country town called Arles. Van Gogh thought Arles would be a great place for artists to get together, to paint, and to talk about their ideas. He tried very hard to get as many artists as he could to join him. The only one to try it out was Paul Gauguin, although he wasn't really crazy about the idea, and it turned out to be a big mistake. Gauguin didn't seem to like anything Van Gogh did in Arles. They argued a lot. So they weren't very good roommates, and this little comic strip kind of points that out. Van Gogh is cooking, and Gauguin says, "Your cooking is terrible. Your paintings are terrible. I'm a better artist than you are. I wish I had never come here. Worst of all, you never pick anything up. This place is a mess." And Van Gogh says, "You're such a grouch." Maybe sometimes you don't get along with your roommates, even if it's your family. Van Gogh probably decided to listen to Gauguin about cleaning the place up because his bedroom looks pretty neat in this famous painting. This is a painting of Van Gogh's bedroom at Arles. I don't know if your room looks that neat. Finally, after a bad argument, Gauguin decided to leave Van Gogh and return to Paris. Van Gogh didn't know what to do. He really wanted things to work out well with Gauguin. Van Gogh had always had problems during his life with the way he felt, and sometimes he would get so angry and upset, nothing seemed to really make him feel better. This time he became so angry and upset that he cut off part of his ear. Van Gogh painted pictures of himself after this happened, and it looks like he wished he hadn't done it. Vincent van Gogh never really got better after Gauguin left him as his roommate. So here he is with a bandage on his ear. And I'm sure you can tell by that part of Van Gogh's story that he had a lot of struggles with his feelings. And I think all of us do from time to time. But Van Gogh did finally, after that, figure out how to put his feelings into his paintings instead of hurting himself like he did in this particular circumstance. And after this, sometimes he was too angry to paint, but sometimes he was also too sad to paint. When he felt good, though, he painted better than ever. He made the stars in the starry night seem like they were really shining. The trees in this painting look like flames, and it feels like the whole picture is moving. In this painting, Van Gogh made the sun look really hot. You almost feel like you have to put on sunglasses to look at it. Van Gogh usually put his paint on very thick. Sometimes he painted so fast he didn't even mix his colors. He used paint right out of the tube. Van Gogh used so much paint he was always running out, and sometimes he stopped buying food in order to buy more paint. So he was hungry a lot of the time, and that means he wasn't very healthy. So here he is in a little comic strip, kind of teasing about him buying paint instead of food. And he's shaking a little bit from being hungry. And he says, "I'd like to order some lemon yellow, pea green, cherry red, and I'll have an orange for dessert." So he's clearly thinking about food while he's buying paint. Hardly anyone was interested in Van Gogh's work while he was alive, and sadly, he sold only a few drawings and paintings, maybe one or two. People in the 1880s and 1890s just weren't used to bright, moving pictures that Van Gogh made. Today, things are different. People have learned how beautiful Vincent van Gogh's art is. Now, his paintings are some of the most popular in the world. Van Gogh, guess what? You finally sold a painting. And Van Gogh says, maybe I'll have enough to buy. Maybe I'll have a future in this after all. I'm sorry, I started to say the wrong comic strip. There's a movie version of this book, and I was quoting the movie in the middle of the book. This painting that I'm about to show you may have been Vincent's last work. Some people think it shows how angry and upset he must have been feeling because he painted a scary sky, roads that lead to a dark background, and crows that look somewhat like bats. Soon after this painting was finished, Van Gogh passed away. He made paintings that seemed alive with color, so bright and beautiful you can almost smell the flowers, feel the bright sun. His brushstrokes give everything a feeling of movement. Trees, stars, people feel alive. Maybe more than any other artist, Van Gogh's feelings came out in his paintings, and that's why Vincent van Gogh is one of the world's greatest artists. Here is what we believe was his final artwork. And it is a somewhat scary or dark painting. The road seems to lead to nowhere. The sky is dark like a storm is coming. And those birds do seem somewhat bat-like. And when we see some of his paintings from when he was sad, it's easy to see when he was happy by comparison. Sunflowers is another very famous Van Gogh work. And his happiest days bring us his brightest artworks, like the one behind me. This is my favorite Van Gogh. It's called Irises, and he painted this while he was feeling in a pretty good place in his life while he was in Arles. Van Gogh's troubles kind of reflect our own from time to time. We all get sad. We all get angry. And the difference between Van Gogh and how he resolves some of his feelings and us is that we always have help from our teachers and our parents and our counselors. Anytime we struggle with our feelings, it's always best to put your feelings into writing or artwork or talk to a grown-up when you have feelings that are crunchy and hard to manage. So we can learn a lot from Van Gogh besides just from his artwork. As we study Van Gogh to complete our Art to Remember, I hope you'll revisit this video if you want to learn more about him again and again, and watch for my videos to come back out with another Van Gogh story for another time.